All right, we're back and we're live this time, and everything's copacetic, and we've got great audio. And let's get right into it, because I love trying new things, and this was a new thing today. So let's get right to it. I figured, again, been kind of down this week, so I figured I would go through. I'm itching to get back out and get fishing, I'll be honest with you. So it's really driving me nuts. So yesterday we went and we did a little bit of reel maintenance, getting ready for ice season. Today I figured I would go through. This is my fanny pack, and this is the pack I carry when I'm fishing the bank, either the Salmon River or Oswego for steelhead. So I'm going to go through my bag real quick and give you an idea of what I carry with me. And I have a lot of stuff. Now, if I was in my drift boat, that would change everything. When I'm in the drift boat or when I'm in my big boat, you can bring a lot more stuff with you. So it opens things up, but I try to condense it down, and I try to be a minimalist. And in years past, when I used to do a lot of winter fishing, before I started really guiding, there was a group of us when I lived at the Sportsman's Lodge that used to go fishing every day. Tony Gulisano and I, my old buddy Tony, lived with me at the lodge for a couple years, and him and I were, out of work fish heads, and we'd go winter steelhead fishing every day, noodle rods, bottom bouncing, and we used to use, in those days, you drifted a lot of small flies. Whether I was always a big fan, I was a disciple of Roger, Mr. Moose Stewart, little pink Estaz flies and stuff like that. Matter of fact, I don't even have any in my bag right now anymore. I don't even have a fly box in here with me. Nowadays, things have changed dramatically. When I left steelhead fishing and guiding full-time for a living back in 2003, the only people that did any kind of float fishing or the only people that I knew of that float fished in those days or center pin fished were Canadians that would come down, especially in the spring, because the Canadian tributaries of Lake Ontario were closed in the spring in April for spawning. So those guys would come down here and fish our tribs that were open. And the only people I ever knew of that fished a bead or a trout bead, I'll show you one here, were guys that were from Alaska. There's the single bead setup. So, and in any myriad of sizes and colors. So those guys in Alaska used to do it, but originally it was frowned upon here in the States, or down here anyway, because the setup is, and we'll go through that rigging here as well. That'll be a good thing to do, because the rigging of a trout bead is the bead is here and the hook is here, and so it was a bare free swinging hook. And like a lot of techniques, it can be met with some uncertainty originally, and a lot of people were up in arms originally about, it's gonna be used for snagging and whatnot. And unfortunately, in our area, that was a real concern, because snagging has been a way of life around here, and it was state sponsored and sanctioned back in the old days originally. And so once you open that kind of a door, it's hard to shut it. You know, the old story about Pandora's box. Once you open that box, it's hard to get everything back in that box. And so when snagging was outlawed, and most of the time that was snagging for steelhead, but when that was outlawed, you know, the state could say and DEC could say, oh yeah, well, you can't do that anymore. But that doesn't mean people are going to stop doing it. And so what would happen is that we would have, I had some pegs in here somewhere. So what happened there was that all of a sudden people started using new and creative ways. Long story short, when the bead fishing really first kind of hit the Salmon River, a lot of people kind of looked at it strange, and so, but in hindsight, it's unfortunate because it really is, when you fish this under a float, it really is a beautiful way to fish, and it allows you to present something that looks natural to them in a natural way. And I'm looking for my pegs here, and I got a whole bag of them somewhere. Anyway. Use a piece of toothpick. So the rig for this is very simple. So you thread your bead onto the hook. Now they have all different kinds of ways to peg these. You can tie a bead knot. You can put it with, you can put a plastic peg through there. I just use the tip of a toothpick. So this is a normal setup right here. Difficult to see. So there's my hook, there's my bead. I usually run 2 to 3 fingers between my bead and my hook, okay? So, and then above that, you're gonna run a leader that's somewhere in the 20 to 30 inch range, and then you run a swivel, and above that you segment your shot, or however you're gonna weight it, and then up to a float. So I'm not necessarily going to get into the hows and whys of that fishing today. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of the things that are in the box, that are in the bag, that I carry with me this time of year. So I carry an assortment of marabou jigs. Some that I've tied, some that I've bought. Especially in Oswego, especially over in Oswego where I like to fish jigs a lot. It's bigger water, and those fish over there, as we've talked about before, are a little more apt to be chasing bait fish presentations as opposed to those fish in the Salmon River, and so all different kinds: white, chartreuse, orange, pink, you name it. The colors are endless. The colors in all fishing situations are endless, but the colors in steelhead fishing really truly are endless. I mean, they can cover every spectrum. One of the boxes I carry, well, I have 4 of these boxes. Double-sided. different sizes from 8mm up to 12. And coloring that for me anyway is your three basic groups are chartreuse, your naturals, oranges that look like, you know, real salmon eggs or real trout eggs, and then, you know, your pinks. Some guys will fish blues. A friend of mine gave me one of these beads this fall when I was fishing with him up there. Just outstanding looking. You know, that's a custom painted bead. Couple of his custom paint jobs. So one of the things I wanted to talk about today real quick was, you know, there's never just one way, ever. I mean, there's never just one lure, there's never just one color. And that's the beauty of fishing. That's what we do. It allows us to be creative. Now, you don't have to do all this stuff yourself. You can buy custom colors, and now there's multiple companies that sell beads. If you go to any of the tackle shops up in Pulaski, you can find 6 different companies or more that are all making beads, and any one of them on any given day can catch fish. These are hard beads. You know, there's companies out there that make soft beads, and they're plastic. You thread them on a line. You can do a lot of different things with them. Customizing them, does it matter? Does it make a difference? Does it change how we think? So look at Homie the Clown. Okay, look at that blade that I colored up this year. It's a black and gold blade. Mike at I1 originally had given it to me because I told him, I said, I fish typically early morning every day. I said, I need good early morning colors. And so he's like, oh, here, try this. And I caught fish on Homie before he was Homie. I caught fish on him when it was just black and gold. In those same moments, you could have, if you find active fish that are willing to bite, I just think that there's a lot of different things that they will eat. You know, whether it be a different bait, different color. So when it comes to these steelhead beads, you know, part of it's just fun. If anybody out there is a fly tire, part of it is just coming up with your own deal, and it comes from your mind and your imagination. And my guess is, at least speaking from personal experiences, that gives me that little extra, oh, this is going to work, or I really think this is going to work. I made this color and now I'm going to fish it, and maybe I fish it longer. Maybe I fish it a little better. Maybe I'm really focused on what I'm doing with it. And then all of a sudden, when that moment of success happens, you're like, hey, I did it once. I knew it was going to work. Now it's going to work again. And you're putting out that positive mental attitude, and it's transferring right down your line, and it draws fish. That might sound stupid, but I just believe that that's how these things work, at least in part. So, simple things. It won't focus. There we go. This is just simply a red Sharpie marker that I made it look like an eyeball, just to break up that color a little bit. Now that little dot, if that's called a blood dot, all right? And that blood dot is found if you were up on the Salmon River in the fall and those thousands and thousands of salmon are spawning and you were in an area where you could see eggs on the bottom in an old red and scooped them up. The farther along they get, that little dot represents the embryo inside that egg starting to grow. And it's just another way that that other fish, because those fish are in there feeding on that stuff like crazy, that they see it or pick it out, and it's just another little thing that catches their eye. I don't know. Maybe it's the killer instinct, whatever. But putting blood dots on things is a common practice, to the point where some companies put them on there before you buy them. Other ones put them on there, other guys put them on there after the fact. So that's all personal preference. Part of fishing for me that I love is that creative expression. This is just a sampling of what is on my table right now. There's the inside of my bag. There's all my bead boxes right there. Then I get over here into all of my, I've got bags and bags of Sharpie markers, regular Sharpie markers. These are oil-based paint markers. These are some of, not all of, my nail polish bottles. Nail polish comes in so many colors. The first time you're with your wife in the store and you stop in the makeup section and start getting handfuls of bottles of nail polish, she's going to look at you like, what are you doing? Well, some of these colors, like that one right there, that to me, that little bit of green glitter, I've brushed that over the top of swim baits, like an emerald shiner, on trolling spoons out in Lake Ontario. You have a number of different colors, neons, glow in the darks. You have your clears with a sparkle in them, some sort of a flake. Candy apple red makes for a great. This color is not really very true, but that makes great blood dots, and it's as simple as, I gotta do it with my left arm. Jesus. Let's see. Let's get a. There's a big chartreuse one right there. That's a 12 millimeter chartreuse. Boom, blood dot, just like that. I mean, couldn't be easier. Anybody can do that. So now the trick is going to be not having it smear all over the place. Same with these oil-based paint markers from Sharpie. Anybody that bought any of the blade bait kits that I was selling, I still have a few left on the Shopify store. Anybody that bought any of those that were customized, you would have found that all of the customization I did is in these oil-based marker Sharpies, and the tip, that's all oil-based paint. It stays longer. It has a deeper, thicker color than a regular Sharpie magic marker. So I use those on all my blade baits. It's a never ending, every time I see something that catches my eye that I might be able to customize something with, I pick them up. I have a tote, a huge tote full of stuff that there's fly tying stuff, and then there's all this stuff and jig tying and customization, because to me, it's fun. So let's go through comments. I can see him going crazy here. Rumble Seed, John Lutz, good morning, buddy. Merlin, good morning. Eric, good morning. Jim Hagler, good morning. Mark Webb, I have two GoPros. I have a Hero 7 Black and a Hero 10 Black. The Hero 10 Black was what I was doing the live stream with this morning. So at least I know it works. I just got to figure out how I can respond to comments, because that's the best part of doing a live, in my opinion. Don Birdie, good morning, buddy. Rumble Seed, I had a dream last night that there were thousands and thousands of anxious ice fishermen all geared up and standing on the shore waiting for the lake to freeze. Well, it's 35 degrees this morning. The wind's blowing out of the east at 20 plus. My flags are right straight out, and I'm watching huge chunks. I mean, hundreds of square foot wide chunks of ice coming down the river from the main lake. So what was out there, I'm sure, has been broken up today. And I looked at the 10-day forecast this morning, and it doesn't show it. There's a couple days coming up where it's going to be bitter cold all day, but then next week it's right back up in the high 30s, low 40s, and I mean it's below freezing overnight. But man, I just don't see when this is going to break and turn to good, safe ice. John Lutz, Slane Steel Bead Company is my favorite. There is a ton of them. I've been talking with Zach from Great Lakes Steelhead Company about putting some kits together that, like I did with the blade bait kits, that we can sell on the Shopify store that'll have beads, and he ties a beautiful marabou jig. So there's more to come on that, but I'll keep everybody posted. Rumble Seat, man. Don Terry, do you think the nail polish smell repels fish until it mitigates? I actually bought a clear with multicolored glitter, but haven't tried it yet. It's a great point. I've thought the same thing with magic markers too. But I don't know how long that smell lasts, and once they're dry, are they smell free? Could you put a little bit of scent? Typically on my almost anything, but on my beads, I fish the smelly jelly a lot. I've had this container for a long time, and all I do is I'll put my bead down in there, just like this, and I just roll it around. Pull it out, and it's ready to fish. Potsky's Fire Gel is fantastic. There's multiple flavors of that. So you can always scent to cover any residual human or chemical odor. But I fished a lot of these beads, and again, I don't know how long that smell lasts, but it can't be that long because they still eat them. Same with all of the blade baits I fish. I don't know how long that smell lasts on them, but it doesn't seem to matter. Yeah, so when I was out, I went out to visit Carl Kapfer before the Double Live event, and when he donated some products for our raffle. And Carl also makes trout beads, and he makes a signature series for a good friend of mine, Chris Malpagano from Get the Net Guide Service. And he was showing me, he would put the beads in a big like bin. I don't know how many he puts in there, but before he put them in the bin, he would have put, so there's something called a mottled bead, MOTTLED. So this one that I just put the eye on, if you notice, see that white or that film looking on it? All right. As opposed to, let me find one that isn't. I mean, they're all modeled to a certain degree because of, most of these beads are just clear when these companies buy them. They buy them in bulk in the tens of thousands, and then they color them. Trying to think of a good one to show you. So now that is much more of a shiny, opaque finish. That's very, very lifelike. You know, that's a fresh egg that's rolling down the river. You have some that are completely opaque. Now that looks more like a dead egg, an unfertilized dead egg that's floating down the river. Here's another one that's crystal clear, and that's about as perfect a color match for a live salmon egg that's been freshly spawned. This one in dirtier water can be real good. That's a complete solid color. That's like Sunny Delight right there. That's more of a swirl pattern. You can see it. That's been painted on. Okay, so there's just a, like I say, there is just a myriad of different color combinations that you can do, and sometimes just by, so I'll show you this one that we just painted right here, this modeled one. So I'm going to take a clear sparkle coat and paint on here. You know, bright sunny day, that little tiny bit of fine, super fine sparkle. See how that changes it already? You can see it. You know, maybe that's enough to entice that bite. And also too, in a place like the Salmon River or some of your more pressured tributaries around the Great Lakes, you got to think that these fish have seen all the standard factory colors before. Now, how much conditioning is there? Got to be some. You know, the Salmon River is not a very big river. It's 20 miles long, and you know, you could have 1,000 guys fishing that 20 miles on any given day. You know, in a busy time of year or more. So, how much have they seen? And does something different play a role? It absolutely could. Fishermen are customizers. I don't know anybody that's been doing it for any length of time that doesn't customize his stuff or her stuff. Jim G, good morning. Kevin Stone, Tammy Hoover, good morning. An older guy fell through the ice on Glen Lake yesterday in Warren County. Yeah, I heard. I saw a post that somebody or a couple guys went through off Sylvan Beach yesterday. Guys, be careful. I know we're all dying to get out, and I am too, but there's nothing worth dying over. There's not a fish in this world that's worth my life, and I certainly don't want to see anybody get hurt. Everybody's talking about all the different bead modifications. John Lutz, who's a friend of the channel, who donated a drift boat trip for the double live event, who I fished with in Oswego, is in the comments right now talking. John's a wealth of knowledge. So that's my morning. We've been doing this for 30 minutes, so we'll I'll wait for 5 or 6 inches of safe ice. Yeah, I will too. I don't know, Jesus, you don't have any choice. I know you can get out on 2 or 3, but there's no way of knowing if 2 or 3 inches of ice is uniform and solid everywhere you go. There's just no way of knowing that. And to trust your life to a couple inches of ice, that's why today I figured we'd talk a little bit about winter steelhead fishing, because you can get up on the river. You don't have to have a ton of specialized gear. You can go into any one of those tackle shops up there, the 2 primary ones, All Season Sports and Fat Nancy's, right when you get off of 81 at the Pulaski exit. You can go in there. You can do anything with anything, but you don't have to have all the specialized gear to just get started. In the old days when I was a kid, I was 15 years old. My buddy was 16. I was a freshman. He was a sophomore or junior in high school. Excuse me. And he called me during Christmas break and said, "Hey, I heard that there's a place in Pulaski you can catch trout in the wintertime." And we were huge stream trout fishermen. I'd never been up to the Great Lakes, never done any of that. And for those of you that go back a little bit, in the old days, to the left, right in town across from McDonald's, was Tony's Salmon Country, Tony Gugino. Matter of fact, I met Tony's son not too long ago when I was up there fishing with another friend of mine, Derek. And the two of them are the ones that gave me this bag full of their custom bead colors. But we were 2 young kids. We went in. We both had we brought our ultralight trout rods, and we went in and after Tony kind of stopped laughing, we didn't have much money to spend in those days. We only had a couple bucks with us. He hooked us up and showed us how to rig up our rods. In that very first day, in those days, it was a fairly popular technique. You had a weight that was bottom bouncing, and you had a short leader, and he sold us, I'll never forget it. They were blue floating jig heads with the little 1.5 inch clear chartreuse Mr. Twister tails. Showed us how to thread them on and told us what to do. And we knew how to bounce bottom with worms in streams for trout. And so he's like, "Yeah, you guys should be okay." And he sent us over to the bridge at 2A and said, "Go below the bridge and you'll see the run right there and fish that right there." We had rubber waders on, uninsulated, no cleats, nothing like that. And my buddy Rob, there was 3 of us. It was Rob, Scott, and myself. And between the 3 of us, we landed 2 steelhead that day and lost a couple other ones, mostly due to break off. We had like 4-pound test line or 6-pound test on our trout fishing rods. And I landed my first one that day, and it was 3 or 4 pounds. It wasn't huge in the world of steelhead, but to a 15-year-old that had never caught anything much more than about a 14-inch trout in any of our local streams around here, and we used to fish them all: 9 Mile, Chittenango, up north, Fish Creek, Mad River. We traveled all over the place fishing for stream trout. We loved it. We kept both of those fish that day. I took them home. Took mine home and showed my grandpa, and he was just like, "Wow," I mean, he'd heard about it, but this would have been, let's see, I was 15, so that was 1986. So that was pretty early on in the life of that salmon and trout fishery up there on the Great Lakes and in there, and that was pretty early on. And I'll never forget. I mean, he's like, oh my God, I've never seen anything that big, and neither had we. And that was over Christmas break, and so we went back up 2 or 3 more times. We took all of our Christmas money. I tried talking my mom into taking some of my Christmas presents back and giving me the cash value so I could go up and I wanted to buy a noodle rod. You know, we'd been in there and Tony showed us all this stuff. And again, if you remember Tony's Salmon Country, it was like a cave, you know, just filled with everything. And to a 15-year-old, it was nirvana. I mean, it was the Holy Land, and that started it for me. And I'll be honest with you, it also kind of ruined it for me for a long time to go stream trout fishing, because I knew that those big fish have such a pull on people, and they pulled me hard. So all through high school, we fished that. We started going to the Oswego River that following fall during the salmon run. And then after high school, I left for the military and was fortunate enough to be stationed in Northern California and then up in Washington State on the West Coast in some of the greatest, you know, cold water trout and salmon waters in the country. And spent my 4 years fishing as much as I could in the areas that were open, and caught multiple species of salmon, Chinooks, silvers, even chums. When I was stationed at Fort Lewis, Washington, the Nisqually River came through the back of Post, and it used to get a huge run of chums. And there was a couple spots where you had to be stationed there to get into. And we used to fish that. And then I came back in '94 after I got out, and I went right back up to Pulaski, and I knew I wanted to be up there. I didn't know what I was going to do, and at the time guiding was still, I didn't know what that even meant, you know. But I met some people, Troy Creasy, Mr. Moose, Bill Markle, Ken Appleby. I met some of those guys, and they saw that I was good enough at it, and they saw that I had that passion, and they kind of took me under their wing, and the next thing, you know, the rest is history. But there were these big fish, really, truly, and what surprises me to some extent is how many people I talk to that are warm water fishermen that are from Central New York and have never been to the Salmon River in any capacity. And I know that there has been, over the years, a lot of negativity around that fishery, and like we talked about snagging, and it's all guys from Jersey and blah, blah, blah. Okay, all of those negative aspects exist, but that doesn't mean you have to absorb them and take them in as truth, you know. And you can always make something into whatever you want, especially when you just lather it with positivity. The Salmon River is beautiful. The Oswego River is beautiful. When the fishing's good and you can get into those things and you have the ability to learn, it's like nothing in the world. You come up and set the hook on a steelhead, and that first 15 seconds he's out of the water 5 times, and he's peeling drag, and you're like, ah, you know. And you can go back and watch some of my videos. There's a great video. I took 2 guys on a guided trip a couple springs ago, and they were both new to center pin fishing, and the one, you know, the one guy, Greg, hooks this fish down below Trout Brook. Bobber goes under, he comes up and sets it, and it burns. It takes off. And a lot of guys have never heard the drag on their reels really coming out. and they go into a panic mode, and all of a sudden they want to hold right onto them and stop that fish, like they're just going to stop them and turn them around and bring them back. That's not how it works. And if you go back and watch that video, that day was a perfect example, and I explained it to him in the moment. I'm like, dude, you gotta let them run, but not let them go completely away. You gotta have pressure on them, and it's a feel. You gotta know your equipment, and you gotta know that it's okay for them to run, and that you're gonna, after they subdue a little bit, then you can start working them back. But those big fish are a drug, and you want to talk about a shot of adrenaline right in your veins. Set the hook on a big fish, or if you're in a drift boat and you're plug fishing, all of a sudden that tips like this and goes, ah! Man, it takes you from 0 to oh my God in a fraction of a second, and that's why we do these kind of things. So, in lieu of not having any ice right now, I thought we'd look at some steelhead fishing. And if anybody's interested, you can message me or you can comment on here. I know a lot of great guides up there that are this time of year, and we've got a lot of mild weather. So winter fishing this year so far and in the immediate future is very comfortable. I've spent a lot of days on that river in single-digit temperatures where every single cast you got to break ice out, but there's not anybody around. If you're interested and you want to go on a drift boat trip, let me know. Like I say, I can steer you in the direction of a lot of great people. John Lutz, again, is one of them on here. I have a pretty wide net of friends of mine that I know and trust, that would give people a good day and really teach them if that's something they want to go back up and do on their own. And if you're local, from Syracuse, Pulaski is 45 minutes. From Oneida Lake, it's 30. So you can go up and you can fish all winter long if we don't have ice. So that's why we're talking steelhead today. And I'm going to catch up on comments, and then we're going to take off for the day. Except I forgot one key thing here. There we go. Kevin Stone, I had 38 and a half years Air Force. Thanks for your service, man. Thank you, Kevin. I did 4, you did 38. That's a long time. Jim Carker, just got on. Can you start from the beginning? Yes. The river is what you make it. Anything in life is what you make it. If you believe and only gravitate towards the negative, then that's what life's going to give you over and over and over. If you look at things at the positive and the new adventures and the I'm willing to try this and what if it's awesome, then you're going to get that back. I'd go on a drift boat if I had a heated cuddy cabin. Well, Bob, Mr. Funny Guy, most everybody I know, they have little portable propane heaters up in the bow of the boat this time of year for that very reason. If for nothing else, not that it's going to keep you warm per se, but if for nothing else, you feel that little bit of warmth and you got something to warm your hands up with. All right, that'll do it for today, guys. Thanks for joining me. I hope everybody learned a little something and got the desire to go fishing. So thanks. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Keep your tip up. Thank you.